To give me one question do you think I'm going to get from a buyer? Now, I want you to listen to the way I answer all these, and there's a rationale as to why I answer them the way I do it.
How much do I need to get started?
Ma'am, I tell you what, I want £200,000 for the house, but I guess you're a little bit short. Would that be right? How short of the £200,000 are you? People will ask you that, by the way. They'll go, how much, they say, how much do you got? They go, how much do you need? How much you got? How much you need? And you get into this thing. So just say, I need it all, but I guess you're a little bit short. How short are you? Okay, where's the next one?
What are the costs?
What are the costs? Sir, let me ask you something. I'm sure you want some paperwork that's going to make sure you've got some sort of interest in this property so we don't forget your name. Is that right? Let me ask you something. I reckon you're going to have to get a solicitor who's going to do that for you. And I guess depending on how good he is, depends on how much he's going to charge you. You just got to decide if you get the good guys or the not so good. But I'm reckoning based on what I've heard in the past. What do they call a charge, Liz? About £600? About £600. Harry.
Do you do a credit check?
Why, sir? Is your credit bad?
Yeah.
How bad is it? You murdered anybody? Bank robbery? Divorce? What are we looking at? Strangled the cat?
Just a couple of missed mortgage payments a few years back.
A few years ago. Let me ask you something. I know that one's one, two's a couple, and a few is anywhere between 3 and 21. So when we talk about a few, how far back are we going? Stone Age?
No, two missed payments in the last 3 years.
Okay. Sir, let me ask you something. Did you learn from your mistakes?
Yeah.
Oh, well then, I reckon I'm okay with that.
Okay, great. Thanks.
By the way, had it been an instalment contract? Probably not. But on this strategy, I probably would have. The different strategies, I'll talk to you about the differences, but I probably would have been okay on this particular strategy. Okay, where we go? Trish, what do you got down there?
Will you replace the boiler if it breaks down?
Sir, is the boiler not working?
No.
Well, I guess we should organise to get that boiler working because there's no point in you working in a house that doesn't work. So let me tell you, you go in there, kick the tyres, let me know what doesn't work. If it doesn't work, I'll fix it before you move in. Ladies and gentlemen, never move people into a house if you know something's wrong with it. And even if you don't know something's wrong with it, even though you might have a document that says you're not meant to pay it, good business says you pay it. Does that make sense? I'd rather write a boiler cheque for £600 because the boiler didn't work and the guy tells 50 people what a good guy I am, rather than the guy tell 1,000 people that he got stiff for a boiler. So if the house doesn't work, you can't move into my house. I won't knowingly sell something that's not there. So yes, sir, we'll fix it. Where are we going? Lindsay, sir.
What happens if I die? Can I pass it to my children?
Sir, let me ask you something. Do your kids know how to write a cheque?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a happy man. I don't mind if you want to do that. How old are they? How old are they?
18.
Oh yeah, okay. All right, if they're 18, I can do with that.
How soon can I move in?
By the way, let me answer that one second. If someone has an issue and they want to hand out, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm getting my money and the people are the right age, they're okay, I might ask you one other question. Let me ask you something, sir. Your sons or daughter or whatever it is, they're not doing drugs, they have jobs, they're normal sort of people? Because if they are, then we don't have a problem. Fantastic. Okay, so where was the person who said move in? Where was the move in question? We just got it. What was the question, sir?
How soon can I move in?
How fast did you want to move in?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow? Yep, fantastic. Sounds like a plan. What else we got, guys? What do we got there? Trish?
Yeah, what happens if the price of the mortgage, or the mortgage, I'm trying to get the mortgage for the value of the house, and it doesn't tie up together at the time when I'm trying to get the mortgage at the end of the term?
What you're saying is, would I be able to work something out with you where you could just continue and extend? Is that right? Until such time as maybe we'll try again a little bit later on. Is that what you're saying to me?
No, I'd say like at the end of it, I'm trying to get a mortgage for what's left.
Right.
And the value of the property is probably lower.
Uh-huh. What would you like to see happen?
You got me there, haven't you? I suppose I just really want to just make sure that I can get a mortgage for that value, or even if it's get halfway, then I'd probably just top it up later, I suppose, something like that.
So what you'd like to do is see if you can get the mortgage first now?
No, just probably later on. I'm just thinking like long term. So when
No,
it comes
so
to the
am
end
I.
of the term.
So I'm just thinking, no, we're both long-term people. What would you like to see happen? What just suppose we get down the road and the value's not there and the global crisis has gotten worse, or what would you like to see happen?
I just want to make sure I can still pay for the property or buy the property. So I just
Okay,
really
and
just
who's the
want to get a
person that
mortgage.
will make that decision, sir?
Myself, I suppose.
Okay.
Sorted.
Let me ask you something. Are you a financially responsible young man?
I hope so, yeah.
Well, then you're on your way. Ladies and gentlemen, quite often if someone asks you something you don't know the answer to it, what would you like to see happen? Remember how I talked to you earlier about scripts? People pop out scripts and they don't think about what they say? And when I said to him, what would you like to see happen? He didn't know because that was a script that just popped out of his brain. Does that make sense? Okay, what's the next question we got somewhere, guys? We've got a microphone. Let's get the microphone. What do you got down there, Gary? Yes, sir.
Hey, Rick, this sounds fantastic, but do you actually own the property?
My partner and I, sir.
Okay.
Now, the reason I say my partner and I, normally I say my partner and I. No one ever asked me anything beyond that. Okay, my partner and I. Okay, what else we got?
Can you do it a bit cheaper?
Can I do what?
Can you do it a bit cheaper?
Can I do a bit cheaper? No. Let me ask, I'll reframe it a different way. The good question though, can I do it cheaper? Sir, compared to what? Continue with me on this. Can do a bit cheaper, it's £200,000 compared to what?
House next door.
The house next door that you can also buy for £4,000.
Yeah, but we're going direct with you, so there's no agent fees. So can you knock a bit off?
Compared to, so it's in fair comparison to the other house that you could buy for £4,000 next door.
Yep.
Sir, I tell you what, if you can buy that other house for £4,000 next door, my suggestion to you is get over there before it's gone.
Very good.
Here's what I just did. Very important, guys. When people want you to discount the price, what you can do is remind them, apples for apples, oranges for oranges. How many houses can they buy in London right now for £4,000 or £5,000? None. So what you're going to do is remind people of what the situation is right now. So I'll say, you're expensive. What, sir? Compared to other houses I can buy for £5,000? They go, oh yeah, when you think about it, you can't buy any other house for £5,000. And that's why this one won't last long. You with me? So when I ask you the question, and if I get someone who says, well, I can buy the house next door for £4,000, I says, well, you better get out of there because it won't last long. So, by the way, my prices, people ever ask you, are you negotiable? Which people do. You are negotiable, but let's face it, why would they want to pay more? Now, where's my next question? Are we up, what have we got down there, Trish? Sir.
Hi. What happens at the end of the term of the option?
Yes?
I can't get a mortgage.
Uh-huh. Let me ask you something. Are you friends with the guy sitting next to you?
Yeah?
Okay. Speak to him. He has a solution. Let me ask you something, sir. What would you like to see happen?
Well, I'd like to get a mortgage.
Uh-huh. Just suppose you can't. Just suppose you drink, drive, and you drive into a tree and you lose your driver's licence and you lose your job and you can't get a mortgage. See, ladies and gentlemen, I can't predict the future. You with me? So when people say, what if, I can't win a what if. You can't go into a court and say to a judge, but what if? No judge will ever let you argue, what if? I don't know. That's the only thing to say, what would you like to see happen? And the person will say to you something like, I'd like to extend. Well, then let's make sure that's in the paperwork. I'd like to know that I can renew the rent to buy. Let's make sure that's in the paperwork. Whatever the person wants, if I say, what would you like to see happen, and they tell me what they want to see happen, I can usually close it out by saying, well, let's just make sure that is reflected in the paperwork, okay? That will usually answer just about every what if you can think of. Now, here's the interesting thing. I can be there for 3.5 hours, and people can what if me to death, what if me, what if me, what if me, and I'll say, you know what would you like to see happen? And I'll say, I'll put it in the paperwork. Of all the hundreds of years I've been doing this, and the paperwork by now should be 7.5 wheelbarrows full. How many people do you reckon have ever come to see the paperwork and actually gone through and checked off every what if to see if it's in the paperwork? No one ever does. Because it's what we referred to before. It's what's called scripting. We covered it earlier today. A lot of stuff when people ask it, if you ask them why they ask it, they don't even know why they asked it. They just asked it because it's an automatic script that pops out. Where else are we on questions? So.
One of the remaining questions is this legal? It's too good to be true.
Sir, you're probably right. I don't suggest you do it. Sometimes, by the way, there's 3 answers I have for that, but it's your personality style. People say to me, is it legal? I go, no. Now, by the way, that's a pattern break, because guess what happens? Do they expect me to say no? So when I say no, they burst out laughing. I go, no. They go, yes it is, I know. So it's a pattern break, because you know, so the one of the things is, the other one you can use is, let me ask you something, sir. Do you have a solicitor? Is he legal?
Yeah.
Or why don't we make sure we use him to make sure he crosses all the dots and does all the T's? How would that make you feel?
Makes me feel better.
Good. Because we are, aren't we? He's got to have a solicitor. Let's just remind him he is. But then let's just get him to agree on the credibility of his own lawyer first. Okay, where's our next question? Yes, ma'am.
Just answer my question, hold on. If it is legal, why isn't everyone doing it?
Well, ma'am, you're the last one to hear about it. Where have you been? You've been overseas? You've been down to Australia, haven't you? You've been on one of those Kentucky bus trips, haven't you? You've been, sorry. That's the old, there's a great script, there's a great scripted question, you know? It's the old too good to be true type stuff. Well, they are. That's why I guess you're here today, man. Okay, what else we got? Where we got Gary? Where's our mic? Sir.
What happens if you die or go bankrupt before I get to buy the property outright?
Let me ask you something, sir. If I go bankrupt, that means I'm making a loss. Let me ask you something. Do you reckon I'm making a profit right now, or do you reckon I'm making a loss?
On this particular property?
Yeah.
I guess you're making a profit.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever known anybody to go bankrupt anywhere who's making a profit?
How do I know you're going to make a profit every time you do this?
Because I'm going to charge you one heck of a lot of money for it, sir. And they all start laughing. Okay? But let me ask you something, sir. If I went bankrupt, what would you like to see happen?
I'd like to see that I can still buy the house as we've already got planned.
All right, so what we should do, if that's a big concern for you, why don't we change the paperwork system we're going to use in such a way that if I do get bankrupted, you'll always be protected. How would that make you feel?
Is that possible, is it?
Correct. Just suppose it was. Would you like the paperwork done that way?
Absolutely.
Correct. Then I'll just automatically change it to an instalment contract right there on the spot. Okay? By the stuff that people tell me, because I'm teaching you all this stuff. Don't worry if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'll give you all the tool set. So when people tell me what their concerns are, I can switch paperwork forms. Does that make sense? To address what it is they want done. All right, what's the next? We've got one, Trish, what do you got over here? Yes, sir.
Rick, what happens if I change my mind?
What if you change your mind? Do you mean what if you want to give me the house back? Is that the question? Or you change your mind as in you don't want to pay me anymore?
Yeah, maybe I don't want to buy it at the end.
I'm okay with that, sir. I'm a very, very happy man. In actual fact, a lot of people at the end of the day decide that this house is either too big, too small, go overseas, whatever. I don't want you to feel any way whatsoever concerned that you have to buy the house. I'm very happy that you just try it on and you decide down the road if it's for you. And if it's not for you, that's okay. Because at a rent to buy, at the end of a rent to buy, people can decide to buy it or not buy it. Does that make sense? It's just a rental. So I'm okay. I'll fit in with whatever you'd like to see happen. Where else we go? Down here, we've got a microphone down here. Where are the microphones, guys? Behind me? Yes, sir. What do you got?
One here. Pick the best one out of these. Can I make alterations to the property?
Do you mean, can you improve the property?
Yeah, can I improve it?
Sir, let me ask you something. You can. But do me a favour. If you're going to do something structural, would you give me a call first before you get started?
Could be an idea.
Fantastic. That way, both of us stay alive. So, I'm okay if people want to improve the property value. Does that make sense, guys? If they're going to do something structural, I just ask them, let me know first. Okay. Yes, sir, you got a microphone? I want these on the mic. Yes, sir.
If I decide I don't want to go ahead at the end and purchase, do I get my get started fee back?
So let me ask you something. If this house doubles in value, do I get my profit back?
Yes, probably.
Really? Fantastic, sir. I'm very happy to give you the money back. By golly, guys, if someone says to you they're going to give you all future capital gain on the property back, write in there that you'll give them their get started money back of £3,000 or £4,000 or £5,000. It'll be the best transaction you ever do. Can I tell you something? I've never actually had anybody in 20 years who said to me they're happy to give me back the capital gain in return for getting back their £5,000. But there's a new trend, and there'll be a new paperwork system designed for you tomorrow. Okay. What do we got down there?
What happens if I don't want to buy?
Let me stop you 1 second. So here's a great question, because one of the most problem questions you're going to get is that one, will people say to you, if I don't buy it, do I get my upfront money back? It's the most common question. The reason I say that is, say, if the house doubles in value, do I get my capital gain profit back? And people always say, no, forget it. You keep the front bit. Okay, good. Sorry. I just wanted to cover that up because it's important. You'll always get it. Yeah.
What happens in the future if I don't want to buy, but I want to stay in the property and keep renting? Can I pay you less each month?
Pay me less. Pay me less. Less. I don't know. And I don't know because I've never had anybody ask me that. Now, could the guy stay as the tenant? Oh, yeah, and it's a decision we'll make then. Like, I don't know. Right now, we're talking about you doing something in a year or 2 years. I might just say, I don't know. I don't know. If you want to stay there, now, 3 things will happen. Usually people will say, can I move out? They can. People will say to me, can they just stay there as a tenant and keep paying the same rent? They can. You've asked for something else. You've asked if you can pay less rent. Let me ask you something, sir. You're still there? Good. Is less of you going to be living in the house?
Probably a little bit more.
Huh? Tell you what, sir, I'm happy to get less money as long as there's less of you.
Fair enough.
Okay. Where else? Where we go? Where's the next one? Yes, sir.
What happens if interest rates go up? Do I pay more money?
Sir, I tell you what, it seems to me like you'd prefer to be in a situation where if interest rates go up, you don't get affected. Would that be right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, why don't we put the paperwork together to reflect that? How would that make you feel?
That'll make me feel warm and cuddly.
Fantastic. What you're going to see when we do these rent-to-buys, the rent-to-buys will go for a certain period of time, then they can renew them. If there's an interest rate rise, I can always adjust figures at the rate rise. We'll discuss that when we get into it in about 1 minute. What I won't do, I work on the basis if I'm making £20,000 to £25,000 on every transaction, an interest rate rise of £7, I'm not going to upset a deal for £7. You see what I'm saying? I'll just wear the cost of £7, £8, £9. But we're going to be discussing that. So the answer I gave you is the way I do it, and when you see the mathematics, it just makes good business sense to do that. Where are we? Got some more questions down here somewhere? We covered them all off. All righty, we got the lot? Okay, ma'am, you got one more here. I like to get these out, guys, because these are all the questions that the marketplace are going to ask you. And then I'm going to explain to you why I answered them the way I did.
How does this actually work?
Ma'am, let me ask you something. A very good question. I'm surprised someone else didn't ask it earlier. Let me ask you something, ma'am. Do you know how leasing a car works?
Yes.
Could you explain that to me?
Well, you pay them every month, and the payments go towards paying for the car. And at the end of the term, you can either pay the full amount and get the car, or that's it. You just
give the car back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, sir, man, this works exactly the same way with a house. Does that sound like something that would interest you?
Yes, it would.
Okay, good, done. Here's the deal. Use analogies. If I told her how it worked, remember this. People will only ever believe 5% of what comes out of my mouth. They will believe 100% what comes out of your own mouth. Does that make sense? Therefore, if people believe 100% what comes out of their mouth and only 5% of what comes out of my mouth, who do you think should do most of the speaking? They should. Therefore, if I told you how leasing a car works, I know your brain's going to go liar, liar, pants on fire, liar, liar, pants on fire, liar, liar, pants on fire. If I relate it to something you already know and that you're comfortable with, then I get you to explain it to me. Then you explain it to me, but you're already in a comfort zone with it because it's a process you already know. Then all I have to do is say, well, this works exactly the same way, but with a house. Does that sound like something that would interest you? And I've already brought in a process that people like. For instance, do you guys have places where you do rent-to-buys on TVs and appliances? Do you have stuff like that? Yeah. Do you have like a national company that does stuff like that? Yeah, what's it called? Okay, would most people know that company name? No. Okay. Pick an association. The other one I'd use is, let me ask you something, ma'am. People, how it works. Let me ask you something. The rent you're paying now, how much of it goes towards buying the house? People say none. Well, the way this works is when you pay the rent, it's kind of the same, except the rent goes towards buying the house. So based on that, which way would you like to pay your rent? Towards buying the house. But the leasing of the car works well. Most people know how leasing a car works. You get them to explain it to you. And then you say, well, this works exactly the same way, but with a house. Does that sound like something that would interest you? And it ticks a mental toolbox that now they get it. If you try to explain something to people, ladies and gentlemen, they not only don't get it, they won't listen to you because it comes out of your mouth. When it comes out of your mouth, they will think, by the way, let me ask you something. Has anybody ever heard the expression, it's a scam? Yeah. You only ever get that when it comes out of my mouth. When people are delivering the information to me and telling me how it works, if people are telling me how it works, do they believe in their own logic system? Right? So it's just how it is. That's why if people always do the talking and I do the questions, I never run up with people saying it's a scam because they're delivering the information. But that was very good. By the way, there was a science behind what I just did. Did you notice that all the answers I gave you didn't actually go into very much detail? They skipped across the surface. And here's why. Thanks, David. Thank you very much. You're here. I'm taking you here. I'm moving you on a train track. I also understand that when people ask you questions, people are conditioned to ask questions. And for most questions, they're what's called smoke questions. They're not real questions. And if you actually said to people, what did you ask me the question for? They actually don't even know why. They asked it because they've been taught to ask it. For instance, sometimes if I mention a transaction and I say I'll pay you interest, ladies and gentlemen, if I said to you I'll pay you interest, what do you think the first question is you guys will automatically ask me back? How much? So it's the standard scripted question that comes back. Does that make sense? Because I threw in the word interest. So what happens is when you do some stuff, there's certain stuff that comes back. But I know they're not real questions, they're issues that come up, that come out. If I answer you in a way that's honest and correct and answers it, it will tick the box and make the person feel happy to move along. They'll keep bouncing along. They go, I get it, they'll keep bouncing. If I get buried into the detail and then I start going, well, here's the technicality of it. It's a lease with an option and a 2-1 carry back and page 7 has article, section, blah, blah, blah. The person's thinking they never wanted to know all that stuff anyway, but now they're going to go, but Article 37, is that Article 37 registered before 1910 or is it Article 30? Suddenly you're buried in so much detail. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, so many people have a hard time getting transactions accepted. Most people just want what I call above the line answers. So they feel in a comfort zone and move forward. So my answers are generally very light, very breezy, very factual, very correct, but I understand that this way people stay above the line and they bubble along, they keep moving forward and they're happy to go along. And then when they do the transaction, they go, that was the easiest transaction I've ever done. The easiest. My friend's a pilot. He flew me to Perth, where all the passengers got off. He said, mate, I'm in an A330 Airbus. I said, awesome. He said, come up, sit in the cockpit with me. And I did. All these buttons do. I said, let me ask you something. Do you know what they do? He said, I know what every one of them does. He says, okay, that'll do enough for me. I don't need, if he buried me in all the detail and he said to me, you know what, Rick, when we took off out of Sydney, I took us off at 18 degrees on the incline. If I took us off at 19 degrees, we would have lost lift, rolled over and burst on the back of the plane. Thank God I kept us at 18 degrees because you know what, I made sure the other guy didn't talk to me and I watched that little thing over there because if he'd been talking to me, I might not have been watching that. We would have taken off at 19 degrees, rolled over and burst into flames. Oh, now let me ask you, how comfortable would that make me feel about flying next time? You will never get me on a plane sober for the rest of your natural life. Because that's all I'm thinking. The less I know, the better. I said to him, do you know how it all works? He goes, yeah, we spend years learning how it works. I'm like, good. Just get me to the United Kingdom in one piece.